envergonhar, inferiorizar.
To abash. To abash.
Diminuir.
To abate. To abate.
Acatar, respeitar.
To abide. To abide.
Absorver.
To absorb. To absorb.
Aceitar.
To accept. To accept.
Acompanhar.
To accompany. To accompany.
Doer.
To ache. To ache.
Alcançar, realizar.
To achieve. To achieve.
Adquirir.
To acquire. To acquire.
Agir.
To act. To act.
Adicionar.
To add. To add.
Endereçar.
To address. To address.
Ajustar.
To adjust. To adjust.
Admirar.
To admire. To admire.
Admitir.
To admit. To admit.
Aconselhar.
To advise. To advise.
Pagar. Bancar.
To afford. To afford.
Concordar.
To agree. To agree.
Pousar.
To alight. To alight.
Permitir.
To allow. To allow.
Animar.
To animate. To animate.
Anunciar.
To announce. To announce.
Responder.
To answer. To answer.
Desculpar.
To apologize. To apologize.
Aparecer.
To appear. To appear.
Aplaudir.
To applaud. To applaud.
Aplicar.
To apply. To apply.
Abordar.
To approach. To approach.
Aprovar.
To approve. To approve.
Argumentar. Discutir.
To argue. To argue.
Surgir.
To arise. To arise.
Organizar. Marcar.
To arrange. To arrange.
Prender.
To arrest. To arrest.
Perguntar.
To ask. To ask.
Afirmar.
To assert. To assert.
Classificar.
To assort. To assort.
Surpreender.
To astonish. To astonish.
Atacar.
To attack. To attack.
Prestar atenção.
To attend. To attend.
atrair,
to attract, to attract,
auditar,
to audit, to audit,
evitar,
to avoid, to avoid,
despertar,
to awake, to awake,
bater, golpear,
to bang, to bang,
banir,
to banish, to banish,
agredir, surrar,
to bash, to bash,
espancar,
to bat, to bat,
ser, estar,
to be, to be,
tolerar,
to bear, to bear,
derrotar,
to beat, to beat,
embelezar,
to beautify, to beautify,
tornar-se,
to become, to become,
suceder algo ruim,
to befall, to befall,
implorar,
to beg, to beg,
começar,
to begin, to begin,
comportar-se,
to behave, to behave,
ver, observar,
to behold, to behold,
acreditar,
to believe, to believe,
pertencer,
to belong, to belong,
dobrar,
to bend, to bend,
enlutar, ficar de luto,
to bereave, to bereave,
suplicar,
to beseech, to beseech,
apostar,
to bet, to bet,
trair,
to betray, to betray,
ofertar, fazer lances,
to bid, to bid,
oferecer,
to proffer, to proffer,
vincular, ligar,
to bind, to bind,
morder,
to bite, to bite,
sangrar,
to bleed, to bleed,
abençoar,
to bless, to bless,
florescer,
to blossom, to blossom,
explodir,
to blow, to blow,
desfocar,
to blur, to blur,
corar,
to blush, to blush,
embarcar,
to board, to board,
ostentar, gabar,
to boost, to boost,
ferver,
to boil, to boil,
arquear, curvar-se,
to bow, to bow,
encaixotar,
to box, to box,
quebrar,
To break. To break.
respirar,
To breathe. To breathe.
procriar,
To breed. To breed.
trazer,
To bring. To bring.
transmitir,
To broadcast. To broadcast.
escovar,
To brush. To brush.
construir,
To build. To build.
queimar,
To burn. To burn.
estourar, explodir,
To burst. To burst.
enterrar,
To bury. To bury.
fracassar,
To bust. To bust.
comprar,
To buy. To buy.
zumbir,
To buzz. To buzz.
calcular,
To calculate. To calculate.
chamar, ligar,
To call. To call.
investigar, apurar,
To canvass. To canvass.
capturar,
To capture. To capture.
acariciar,
To caress. To caress.
carregar,
To carry. To carry.
esculpir,
To carve. To carve.
descontar,
To cash. To cash.
transmitir,
To cast. To cast.
pegar,
To catch. To catch.
causar,
To cause. To cause.
cessar,
To seize. To seize.
celebrar,
To celebrate. To celebrate.
desafiar,
To challenge. To challenge.
mudar,
To change. To change.
carregar,
To charge. To charge.
perseguir,
To chase. To chase.
conversar,
To chat. To chat.
checar,
To check. To check.
animar, alegrar,
To cheer. To cheer.
mastigar,
To chill. To chill.
repreender,
To chide. To chide.
lascar,
To chip. To chip.
sufocar,
To choke. To choke.
escolher,
To choose. To choose.
classificar,
To classify. To classify.
limpar,
To clean. To clean.
apegar,
To cleave. To cleave.
clicar,
To click, to click,
escalar,
to climb, to climb,
agarrar,
to cling, to cling,
fechar,
to close, to close,
vestir,
to close, to close,
apertar,
to clutch, to clutch,
desmoronar, desabar,
to collapse, to collapse,
coletar,
to collect, to collect,
colorir,
to color, to color,
vir,
to come, to come,
comentar,
to comment, to comment,
comparar,
to compare, to compare,
obrigar,
to compel, to compel,
competir,
to compete, to compete,
reclamar,
to complain, to complain,
completar,
to complete, to complete,
concluir,
to conclude, to conclude,
conduzir,
to conduct, to conduct,
confessar,
to confess, to confess,
confinar,
to confine, to confine,
confiscar,
to confiscate, to confiscate,
confundir,
to confuse, to confuse,
parabenizar,
to congratulate, to congratulate,
conectar,
to connect, to connect,
conotar,
to connote, to connote,
conquistar,
to conquer, to conquer,
consagrar,
to consecrate, to consecrate,
consentir,
to consent, to consent,
conservar,
to conserve, to conserve,
considerar,
to consider, to consider,
consignar,
to consign, to consign,
consistir,
to consist, to consist,
consolar,
to console, to console,
associar, aliar,
to concert, to concert,
conspirar,
to conspire, to conspire,
constituir,
to constitute, to constitute,
restringir,
to constrain, to constrain,
construir,
to construct, to construct,
interpretar,
to construe, to construe,
consultar,
to consult, to consult,
conter,
to contain, to contain,
desprezar, desdenhar,
to contemn, to contemn,
argumentar,
to contend, to contend,
contestar,
to contest, to contest,
continuar,
to continue, to continue,
contrair,
to contract, to contract,
contradizer,
to contradict, to contradict,
contrastar,
to contrast, to contrast,
contribuir,
to contribute, to contribute,
inventar, maquinar,
to contrive, to contrive,
controlar,
to control, to control,
convocar,
to convene, to convene,
convergir,
to converge, to converge,
conversar,
to converse, to converse,
converter,
to convert, to convert,
transmitir,
to convey, to convey,
condenar,
to convict, to convict,
convencer,
to convince, to convince,
relaxar,
to chill, to chill,
cozinhar,
to cook, to cook,
esfriar,
to cool, to cool,
cooperar,
to cooperate, to cooperate,
lidar,
to cope, to cope,
copiar,
to copy, to copy,
corrigir,
to correct, to correct,
corresponder,
to correspond, to correspond,
corroer,
to corrode, to corrode,
corromper,
to corrupt, to corrupt,
custar,
to cost, to cost,
tossir,
to cough, to cough,
aconselhar,
to counsel, to counsel,
contar,
to count, to count,
percorrer,
to course, to course,
cobrir,
to cover, to cover,
encolher-se,
to cover, to cover,
rachar,
to crack, to crack,
estalar,
to crackle, to crackle,
falhar, acidentar,
to crash, to crash,
almejar,
to crave, to crave,
criar,
to create, to create,
assustar,
to creep, to creep,
plagiar,
to crib, to crib,
atravessar,
To cross. To cross.
Aglomerar.
To crowd. To crowd.
Esmagar.
To crush. To crush.
Chorar.
To cry. To cry.
Amaldiçoar.
To curse. To curse.
Curar.
To cure. To cure.
Curvar.
To curve. To curve.
Cortar.
To cut. To cut.
Pedalar.
To cycle. To cycle.
Prejudicar. Danificar.
To damage. To damage.
Umedecer.
To damp. To damp.
Dançar.
To dance. To dance.
Ousar.
To dare. To dare.
Correr.
To dash. To dash.
Deslumbrar.
To dazzle. To dazzle.
Lidar.
To deal. To deal.
Apodrecer. Decair.
To decay. To decay.
Decidir.
To decide. To decide.
Declarar.
To declare. To declare.
Decorar.
To decorate. To decorate.
Diminuir. Reduzir.
To decrease. To decrease.
Dedicar.
To dedicate. To dedicate.
Atrasar.
To delay. To delay.
Deletar.
To delete. To delete.
Negar.
To deny. To deny.
Depender.
To depend. To depend.
Privar.
To deprive. To deprive.
Derivar. Auferir.
To derive. To derive.
Descrever.
To describe. To describe.
Desejar.
To desire. To desire.
Destruir.
To destroy. To destroy.
Destacar. Separar.
To detach. To detach.
Detectar.
To detect. To detect.
Determinar.
To determine. To determine.
Desenvolver.
To develop. To develop.
Morrer.
To die. To die.
Diferir. Diferenciar.
To differ. To differ.
Escavar.
To dig. To dig.
Digerir.
To digest. To digest.
Escurecer. Ofuscar.
To dim. To dim.
Diminuir.
To diminish. To diminish.
jantar,
To dine. To dine.
mergulhar ou banhar algo,
To dip. To dip.
direcionar,
To direct. To direct.
desaparecer,
To disappear. To disappear.
descobrir,
To discover. To discover.
discutir,
To discuss. To discuss.
desobedecer,
To disobey. To disobey.
mostrar, ostentar,
To display. To display.
dispor,
To dispose. To dispose.
distribuir,
To distribute. To distribute.
perturbar,
To disturb. To disturb.
inutilizar, desusar,
To disuse. To disuse.
mergulhar,
To dive. To dive.
dividir,
To divide. To divide.
fazer,
To do. To do.
doar,
To donate. To donate.
copiar dados via internet,
To download. To download.
arrastar,
To drag. To drag.
desenhar,
To draw. To draw.
sonhar,
To dream. To dream.
vestir,
To dress. To dress.
perfurar,
To drill. To drill.
beber,
To drink. To drink.
dirigir,
To drive. To drive.
derrubar, pingar,
To drop. To drop.
secar,
To dry. To dry.
despejar,
To dump. To dump.
habitar,
To dwell. To dwell.
tingir,
To die. To die.
ganhar por meio de trabalho,
To earn. To earn.
comer,
To eat. To eat.
educar,
To educate. To educate.
capacitar,
To empower. To empower.
esvaziar,
To empty. To empty.
cercar,
To encircle. To encircle.
encorajar,
To encourage. To encourage.
invadir, usurpar,
To encroach. To encroach.
colocar em perigo,
To endanger. To endanger.
endossar, sancionar,
To endorse. To endorse.
aguentar,
To endure. To endure.
gravar,
To engrave. To engrave.
curtir,
To enjoy. To enjoy.
Aumentar.
To enlarge. To enlarge.
Esclarecer. Iluminar.
To enlighten. To enlighten.
Entrar.
To enter. To enter.
Invejar.
To envy. To envy.
Apagar.
To erase. To erase.
Escapar.
To escape. To escape.
Evaporar.
To evaporate. To evaporate.
Trocar.
To exchange. To exchange.
Exclamar.
To exclaim. To exclaim.
Excluir.
To exclude. To exclude.
Existir.
To exist. To exist.
Expandir.
To expand. To expand.
Esperar.
To expect. To expect.
Explicar.
To explain. To explain.
Explorar.
To explore. To explore.
Expressar.
To express. To express.
Estender.
To extend. To extend.
Olhar.
To eye. To eye.
Encarar.
To face. To face.
Falhar.
To fail. To fail.
Desmaiar.
To faint. To faint.
Cair.
To fall. To fall.
Abanar. Ventilar.
To fan. To fan.
Imaginar.
To fancy. To fancy.
Favorecer.
To favor. To favor.
Facilitar.
To facilitate. To facilitate.
Alimentar.
To feed. To feed.
Sentir.
To feel. To feel.
Transportar via barco.
To ferry. To ferry.
Buscar. Trazer de volta.
To fetch. To fetch.
Lutar.
To fight. To fight.
Preencher.
To fill. To fill.
Encontrar.
To find. To find.
Terminar.
To finish. To finish.
Pescar.
To fish. To fish.
Caber.
To fit. To fit.
Consertar.
To fix. To fix.
Efervescer. Espumar.
To fizz. To fizz.
Bater asas.
To flap. To flap.
Piscar.
To flash. To flash.
Fugir.
To flee. To flee.
Lançar. Atirar algo.
To fling. To fling.
Flutuar. Boiar.
To float. To float.
Cair pesadamente.
To flop. To flop.
Voar.
To fly. To fly.
Dobrar.
To fold. To fold.
Seguir.
To follow. To follow.
Proibir.
To forbid. To forbid.
Forçar.
To force. To force.
Prever. Prognosticar.
To forecast. To forecast.
Adivinhar. Prever.
To foretell. To foretell.
Esquecer.
To forget. To forget.
Perdoar.
To forgive. To forgive.
Prenunciar. Prefigurar.
To foreshadow. To foreshadow.
Formar. Dar forma.
To form. To form.
Abandonar. Desistir.
To forsake. To forsake.
Fundar. Estabelecer.
To found. To found.
Enquadrar. Moldar.
To frame. To frame.
Libertar.
To free. To free.
Congelar.
To freeze. To freeze.
Amedrontar. Assustar.
To frighten. To frighten.
Fritar.
To fry. To fry.
Cumprir. Realizar.
To fulfill. To fulfill.
Amordaçar.
To gag. To gag.
Ganhar. Obter.
To gain. To gain.
Contradizer. Negar.
To gainsay. To gainsay.
Ferir profundamente. Cortar.
To gash. To gash.
Olhar fixamente com admiração.
To gaze. To gaze.
Obter. Conseguir. Entender. Atingir.
To get. To get.
Dar.
To give. To give.
Olhar rapidamente.
To glance. To glance.
Brilhar.
To glitter. To glitter.
Encandecer.
To glow. To glow.
Ir.
To go. To go.
Pesquisar no Google.
To Google. To Google.
Governar.
To govern. To govern.
Agarrar. Pegar.
To grab. To grab.
Classificar.
To grade. To grade.
Conceder.
To grant. To grant.
Saudar. Felicitar.
To greet. To greet.
Moer.
To grind. To grind.
Agarrar com firmeza.
To grip. To grip.
Crescer.
To grow. To grow.
Proteger. Defender.
To guard. To guard.
Adivinhar. Supor.
To guess. To guess.
Guiar. Orientar.
To guide. To guide.
Lidar.
To handle. To handle.
Pendurar.
To hang. To hang.
Acontecer.
To happen. To happen.
Fazer mal. Prejudicar.
To harm. To harm.
Chocar. Incubar.
To hatch. To hatch.
Odiar.
To hate. To hate.
Ter.
To have. To have.
Curar.
To heal. To heal.
Ouvir.
To hear. To hear.
Elevar. Levantar com esforço.
To heave. To heave.
Ajudar.
To help. To help.
Cortar. Talhar.
To heal. To heal.
Esconder.
To hide. To hide.
Impedir. Entravar.
To hinder. To hinder.
Assobiar. Chiar.
To hiss. To hiss.
Acertar. Atingir.
To hit. To hit.
Enganar. Pregar uma peça.
To hoax. To hoax.
Segurar. Manter.
To hold. To hold.
Pular. Saltar.
To hop. To hop.
Ter esperança. Esperar.
To hope. To hope.
Horrorizar.
To horrify. To horrify.
Abraçar.
To hug. To hug.
Zumbir. Cantarolar.
To hum. To hum.
Humilhar.
To humiliate. To humiliate.
Caçar.
To hunt. To hunt.
Arremessar. Atirar violentamente.
To hurl. To hurl.
Apressar.
To hurry. To hurry.
Magoar. Ferir.
To hurt. To hurt.
Silenciar. Aquietar.
To hush. To hush.
Esforçar-se. Tentar assiduamente.
To hustle. To hustle.
Hipnotizar.
To hypnotize. To hypnotize.
Idealizar.
To idealize. To idealize.
Identificar.
To identify. To identify.
Idolatrar.
To idolize. To idolize.
Pegar, pôr fogo.
To ignite. To ignite.
Ignorar.
To ignore. To ignore.
Maltratar.
To ill-treat. To ill-treat.
Iluminar.
To illuminate. To illuminate.
Retratar. Descrever.
To depict. To depict.
Ilustrar.
To illustrate. To illustrate.
Imaginar.
To imagine. To imagine.
Beber. Absorver líquido.
To imbibe. To imbibe.
Imitar.
To imitate. To imitate.
Mergulhar. Imergir.
To immerse. To immerse.
Sacrificar. Matar queimado.
To immolate. To immolate.
Enclausurar.
To enclose. To enclose.
Prejudicar. Debilitar.
To impair. To impair.
Transmitir. Conceder.
To impart. To impart.
Pôr em dúvida. Acusar.
To impeach. To impeach.
Dificultar. Atrasar.
To impede. To impede.
Incitar. Impulsionar.
To impel. To impel.
Iminir. Estar prestes a acontecer.
To impend. To impend.
Pôr em risco.
To imperil. To imperil.
Impactar. Produzir efeito negativo.
To impinge. To impinge.
Implantar.
To implant. To implant.
Implicar. Ter relação com.
To implicate. To implicate.
Implodir.
To implode. To implode.
Implorar. Suplicar.
To implore. To implore.
Insinuar.
To imply. To imply.
Importar.
To import. To import.
Impor. Obrigar.
To impose. To impose.
Impressionar.
To impress. To impress.
Imprimir. Carimbar.
To imprint. To imprint.
Aprisionar.
To imprison. To imprison.
Melhorar. Aprimorar.
To improve. To improve.
Inaugurar.
To inaugurate. To inaugurate.
Incisir. Entalhar.
To incise. To incise.
Incluir.
To include. To include.
Aumentar. To increase. To increase. Incrementar. To 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 incremen
to increase,
imbuir, impregnar,
to imbue, to imbue,
entalhar,
to notch, to knot,
indicar,
to indicate, to indicate,
induzir,
to induce, to induce,
saciar,
to indulge, to indulge,
infectar,
to infect, to infect,
infestar,
to infest, to infest,
inflamar,
to inflame, to inflame,
inflar,
to inflate, to inflate,
modular, flexionar,
to inflect, to inflect,
informar,
to inform, to inform,
infringir,
to infringe, to infringe,
animar, alegrar,
to enliven, to enliven,
ingerir,
to ingest, to ingest,
habitar,
to inhabit, to inhabit,
inalar,
to inhale, to inhale,
herdar,
to inherit, to inherit,
iniciar,
to initiate, to initiate,
injetar,
to inject, to inject,
ferir, ofender,
to injure, to injure,
incrustar,
to inlay, to inlay,
inovar,
to innovate, to innovate,
embutir,
to embed, to embed,
indagar,
to inquire, to inquire,
inscrever,
to inscribe, to inscribe,
inserir, introduzir,
to insert, to insert,
inspecionar,
to inspect, to inspect,
inspirar,
to inspire, to inspire,
instalar,
to install, to install,
insultar,
to insult, to insult,
garantir, assegurar,
to insure, to insure,
integrar,
to integrate, to integrate,
apresentar,
to introduce, to introduce,
inventar,
to invent, to invent,
convidar,
to invite, to invite,
juntar,
to join, to join,
saltar,
to jump, to jump,
justificar,
to justify, to justify,
manter,
to keep, to keep,
chutar,
to kick, to kick,
brincar,
to kid, to kid,
matar,
to kill, to kill,
beijar,
to kiss, to kiss,
ajoelhar,
to kneel, to kneel,
tricotar,
to knit, to knit,
bater,
to knock, to knock,
saber,
to know, to know,
transportar,
to lade, to lade,
pousar, aterrissar,
to land, to land,
durar,
to last, to last,
trancar, aferrolhar,
to latch, to latch,
rir,
to laugh, to laugh,
deitar,
to lay, to lay,
liderar,
to lead, to lead,
vazar,
to leak, to leak,
inclicar, encostar,
to lean, to lean,
saltar, pular,
to leap, to leap,
aprender,
to learn, to learn,
deixar,
to leave, to leave,
zombar,
to leer, to leer,
emprestar,
to lend, to lend,
deixar,
to let, to let,
lamber,
to leak, to leak,
mentir,
to lie, to lie,
cochilar,
to doze, to doze,
levantar, erguer,
to lift, to lift,
acender,
to light, to light,
gostar,
to like, to like,
mancar,
to limp, to limp,
ouvir,
to listen, to listen,
viver,
to live, to live,
olhar,
to look, to look,
perder,
to lose, to lose,
amar,
to love, to love,
ampliar, exaltar,
to magnify, to magnify,
manter,
to maintain, to maintain,
fazer,
to make, to make,
gerenciar,
to manage, to manage,
marchar,
to march, to march,
marcar,
to mark, to mark,
casar,
to marry, to marry,
amassar,
to mash, to mash,
combinar,
to match, to match,
ter importância,
To matter. To matter.
Significar.
To mean. To mean.
Medir.
To measure. To measure.
Encontrar.
To meet. To meet.
Derreter.
To melt. To melt.
Fundir.
To merge. To merge.
Miar.
To mill. To mill.
Migrar.
To migrate. To migrate.
Ordenhar.
To milk. To milk.
Ter em mente.
To mind. To mind.
Induzir ao erro.
To mislead. To mislead.
Faltar. Sentir falta.
To miss. To miss.
Errar.
To mistake. To mistake.
Fazer mau uso.
To misuse. To misuse.
Misturar.
To mix. To mix.
Gemer.
To moan. To moan.
Modificar.
To modify. To modify.
Mugir.
To moo. To moo.
Motivar.
To motivate. To motivate.
Moldar.
To mold. To mold.
Deslocar.
To displace. To displace.
Mover.
To move. To move.
Cortar. Aparar a grama.
To mow. To mow.
Multiplicar.
To multiply. To multiply.
Murmurar.
To murmur. To murmur.
Aprender. Fixar.
To nail. To nail.
Cochilar.
To nap. To nap.
Precisar.
To need. To need.
Negligenciar.
To neglect. To neglect.
Beliscar.
To nip. To nip.
Acenar com a cabeça.
To nod. To nod.
Anotar.
To note. To note.
Perceber.
To notice. To notice.
Notificar.
To notify. To notify.
Nutrir.
To nourish. To nourish.
Cuidar. Amamentar.
To nurse. To nurse.
Obedecer.
To obey. To obey.
Obrigar.
To oblige. To oblige.
Observar.
To observe. To observe.
Obstruir.
To obstruct. To obstruct.
Obter.
To obtain. To obtain.
Ocupar.
To occupy. To occupy.
Ocorrer.
To occur. To occur.
Oferecer.
To offer. To offer.
Compensar.
To countervail. To countervail.
Omitir.
To omit. To omit.
Escorrer.
To ouse. To ouse.
Abrir.
To open. To open.
Operar.
To operate. To operate.
Opinar.
To opine. To opine.
Oprimir.
To oppress. To oppress.
Optar.
To opt. To opt.
Otimizar.
To optimize. To optimize.
Ordenar. Requisitar.
To order. To order.
Organizar.
To organize. To organize.
Originar. Dar origem.
To originate. To originate.
Diluir.
To deluge. To deluge.
Transbordar.
To overflow. To overflow.
Ultrapassar.
To overtake. To overtake.
Dever.
To owe. To owe.
Possuir.
To own. To own.
Pacificar.
To pacify. To pacify.
Pintar.
To paint. To paint.
Perdoar.
To pardon. To pardon.
Partir.
To part. To part.
Vincular.
To link. To link.
Participar.
To participate. To participate.
Passar.
To pass. To pass.
Colar.
To paste. To paste.
Acariciar.
To pet. To pet.
Remendar.
To patch. To patch.
Pausar.
To pause. To pause.
Pagar.
To pay. To pay.
Espiar.
To peep. To peep.
Perecer.
To perish. To perish.
Permitir.
To permit. To permit.
Persuadir.
To persuade. To persuade.
Telefonar.
To phone. To phone.
Colocar.
To place. To place.
Planejar.
To plan. To plan.
Jogar.
To play. To play.
suplicar,
to plead, to plead,
agradar,
to please, to please,
caminhar penosamente, arrastar-se,
to plod, to plod,
tramar,
to plot, to plot,
arrancar,
to pluck, to pluck,
trabalhar com,
to ply, to ply,
apontar,
to point, to point,
polir,
to polish, to polish,
poluir,
to pollute, to pollute,
refletir, ponderar,
to ponder, to ponder,
derramar,
to pour, to pour,
fazer cara feia,
to pout, to pout,
praticar,
to practice, to practice,
elogiar,
to praise, to praise,
rezar,
to pray, to pray,
pregar, orar,
to preach, to preach,
preferir,
to prefer, to prefer,
preparar,
to prepare, to prepare,
prescrever,
to prescribe, to prescribe,
apresentar,
to present, to present,
preservar,
to preserve, to preserve,
predefinir,
to preset, to preset,
presidir, atuar como presidente,
to preside, to preside,
pressionar,
to press, to press,
fingir,
to pretend, to pretend,
prevenir,
to prevent, to prevent,
imprimir,
to print, to print,
prosseguir,
to proceed, to proceed,
produzir,
to produce, to produce,
progredir,
to progress, to progress,
proibir,
to prohibit, to prohibit,
prometer,
to promise, to promise,
propor,
to propose, to propose,
processar,
to prosecute, to prosecute,
proteger,
to protect, to protect,
provar,
to prove, to prove,
fornecer,
to provide, to provide,
puxar,
to pull, to pull,
punir,
to punish, to punish,
purificar,
to purify, to purify,
empurrar,
to push, to push,
colocar,
to put, to put,
qualificar,
to qualify, to qualify,
discutir, brigar,
to quarrel, to quarrel,
questionar,
to question, to question,
sair, desistir,
to quit, to quit, to quit,
correr,
to run, to run,
chover,
to rain, to rain,
chocalhar,
to rattle, to rattle,
alcançar,
to reach, to reach,
ler,
to read, to read,
perceber,
to realize, to realize,
reconstruir,
to rebuild, to rebuild,
recolher,
to recall, to recall,
reformular,
to recast, to recast,
receber,
to receive, to receive,
recitar,
to recite, to recite,
reconhecer,
to recognize, to recognize,
recordar,
to recollect, to recollect,
recorrer,
to recur, to recur,
refazer,
to redo, to redo,
reduzir,
to reduce, to reduce,
referir,
to refer, to refer,
refletir,
to reflect, to reflect,
recusar,
to refuse, to refuse,
considerar,
to regard, to regard,
arrepender-se, lamentar,
to regret, to regret,
relatar,
to relate, to relate,
relaxar,
to relax, to relax,
confiar,
to rely, to rely,
permanecer,
to remain, to remain,
refazer,
to remake, to remake,
remover,
to remove, to remove,
rasgar, despedaçar,
to rend, to rend,
renovar,
to renew, to renew,
renunciar,
to renounce, to renounce,
reparar,
to repair, to repair,
repetir,
to repeat, to repeat,
substituir,
to replace, to replace,
responder,
to reply, to reply,
reportar,
to report, to report,
solicitar,
to request, to request,
revender,
to resell, to resell,
comparar, assemelhar,
To resemble. To resemble.
reiniciar,
To reset. To reset.
resistir,
To resist. To resist.
resolver,
To resolve. To resolve.
respeitar,
To respect. To respect.
descansar,
To rest. To rest.
restringir,
To restrain. To restrain.
reter,
To retain. To retain.
vomitar,
To retch. To retch.
aposentar-se,
To retire. To retire.
retornar,
To return. To return.
reutilizar,
To reuse. To reuse.
rever,
To reveal. To reveal.
retroceder,
To rewind. To rewind.
livrar,
To read. To read.
montar, cavalgar,
To ride. To ride.
tocar,
To ring. To ring.
aumentar, subir,
To rise. To rise.
rugir,
To roar. To roar.
assaltar, roubar,
To rob. To rob.
rolar,
To roll. To roll.
apodrecer,
To rot. To rot.
esfregar,
To rub. To rub.
governar,
To rule. To rule.
correr,
To run. To run.
apressar,
To hush. To hush.
sabotar,
To sabotage. To sabotage.
demitir,
To sack. To sack.
sacrificar,
To sacrifice. To sacrifice.
entristecer,
To sadden. To sadden.
selar cavalo,
To settle. To settle.
perder firmeza, ceder,
To sag. To sag.
navegar,
To sail. To sail.
poupar,
To spare. To spare.
saudar,
To salute. To salute.
salvar, resgatar,
To salvage. To salvage.
credenciar,
To accredit. To accredit.
tirar amostras,
To sample. To sample.
santificar,
To sanctify. To sanctify.
sancionar,
To sanction. To sanction.
extrair seiva, minar,
To sap. To sap.
Abrigar.
To shelter. To shelter.
Esmagar.
To sash. To sash.
Esfaquear.
To stab. To stab.
Falar grosseiramente.
To sass. To sass.
Satisfazer.
To sate. To sate.
Saciar.
To satiate. To satiate.
Satirizar.
To satirize. To satirize.
Satisfazer.
To satisfy. To satisfy.
Saturar.
To saturate. To saturate.
Passear tranquilamente.
To sounder. To sounder.
Salvar.
To save. To save.
Saborear.
To savor. To savor.
Ter conhecimento sobre.
To savvy. To savvy.
Serrar.
To saw. To saw.
Dizer.
To say. To say.
Criar crosta.
To scab. To scab.
Rabiscar.
To scroll. To scroll.
Escaldar.
To scald. To scald.
Medir. Escalar.
To scale. To scale.
Fazer às pressas.
To scamp. To scamp.
Digitalizar.
To scan. To scan.
Limitar. Restringir.
To scant. To scant.
Cicatrizar.
To scar. To scar.
Assustar.
To scare. To scare.
Atormentar.
To torment. To torment.
Inclinar.
To slope. To slope.
Derrotar.
To vanquish. To vanquish.
Espalhar.
To scatter. To scatter.
Repreender.
To scold. To scold.
Chamuscar.
To scorch. To scorch.
Fazer cara de bravo.
To scold. To scold.
Rabiscar.
To scrawl. To scrawl.
Gritar.
To scream. To scream.
Parafusar.
To screw. To screw.
Esfregar.
To scrub. To scrub.
Procurar.
To search. To search.
Sentar.
To seat. To seat.
Assegurar.
To secure. To secure.
Ver.
To see. To see.
Buscar. procurar,
to seek, to seek,
parecer,
to seem, to seem,
aproveitar,
to seize, to seize,
selecionar,
to select, to select,
vender,
to sell, to sell,
enviar,
to send, to send,
sentenciar,
to sentence, to sentence,
separar,
to separate, to separate,
estabelecer,
to set, to set,
cortar,
to sever, to sever,
costurar,
to sew, to sew,
sacudir,
to shake, to shake,
moldar,
to shape, to shape,
compartilhar,
to share, to share,
quebrar, despedaçar,
to shatter, to shatter,
barbear,
to shave, to shave,
tosar,
to shear, to shear,
deixar cair,
to shed, to shed,
brilhar,
to shine, to shine,
fugir, evitar,
to shirk, to shirk,
defecar,
to shit, to shit,
ter calafrios, tremer,
to shiver, to shiver,
chocar,
to shock, to shock,
calçar,
to shoe, to shoe,
atirar,
to shoot, to shoot,
encurtar,
to shorten, to shorten,
falar em voz alta,
to shout, to shout,
mostrar,
to show, to show,
encolher,
to shrink, to shrink,
fugir, afastar-se,
to shun, to shun,
fechar,
to shut, to shut,
avistar,
to sight, to sight,
sinalizar,
to signal, to signal,
significar,
to signify, to signify,
cantar,
to sing, to sing,
afundar,
to sink, to sink,
bebericar,
to sip, to sip,
sentar,
to seat, to seat,
esquiar,
to ski, to ski,
patinar,
to skid, to skid,
bater, fechar com força,
to slam, to slam,
matar violentamente,
to slay, to slay,
dormir,
To sleep. To sleep.
deslizar,
To slide. To slide.
emagrecer, afinar,
To slim. To slim.
arremessar, lançar,
To sling. To sling.
escapulir,
To slink. To slink.
escorregar,
To slip. To slip.
fazer incisão,
To slit. To slit.
esmagar,
To smash. To smash.
cheirar,
To smell. To smell.
sorrir,
To smile. To smile.
embater,
To smite. To smite.
suavizar,
To smooth. To smooth.
sufocar,
To smother. To smother.
trincar,
To snap. To snap.
arrebatar,
To snatch. To snatch.
andar furtivamente,
To sneak. To sneak.
espirrar,
To sneeze. To sneeze.
farejar,
To sniff. To sniff.
pairar,
To soar. To soar.
soluçar,
To sob. To sob.
solicitar,
To solicit. To solicit.
resolver,
To solve. To solve.
acalmar, abrandar,
To soothe. To soothe.
ordenar,
To sort. To sort.
semear,
To sow. To sow.
faiscar,
To sparkle. To sparkle.
falar,
To speak. To speak.
acelerar,
To speed. To speed.
soletrar,
To spell. To spell.
gastar,
To spend. To spend.
derramar,
To spill. To spill.
girar,
To spin. To spin.
cuspir,
To spit. To spit.
dividir,
To split. To split.
estragar, mimar,
To spoil. To spoil.
pulverizar,
To spray. To spray.
espalhar,
To spread. To spread.
pular,
To spring. To spring.
brotar,
To sprout. To sprout.
espremer,
To squeeze. To squeeze.
ficar em pé,
To stand. To stand.
encarar,
To stare. To stare.
iniciar,
To start. To start.
declarar,
To state. To state.
parar,
To stop. To stop.
ficar,
To stay. To stay.
roubar,
To steal. To steal.
embeber,
To steep. To steep.
conter,
To stem. To stem.
dar passo,
To step. To step.
esterilizar,
To sterilize. To sterilize.
enfiar, espetar,
To stick. To stick.
estimular,
To stimulate. To stimulate.
picar,
To sting. To sting.
feder,
To stink. To stink.
agitar, mexer com a colher,
To steer. To steer.
dar pontos,
To stitch. To stitch.
parar,
To stop. To stop.
armazenar,
To store. To store.
constringir, esticar,
To strain. To strain.
desviar, devanear,
To stray. To stray.
estressar,
To stress. To stress.
esticar,
To stretch. To stretch.
espalhar, semear,
To strill. To strill.
andar a passos largos,
To stride. To stride.
atacar,
To strike. To strike.
sequenciar,
To string. To string.
esforçar-se ao máximo,
To strive. To strive.
estudar,
To study. To study.
submeter,
To submit. To submit.
subscrever,
To subscribe. To subscribe.
subtrair,
To subtract. To subtract.
ter sucesso,
To succeed. To succeed.
chupar,
To suck. To suck.
sofrer,
To suffer. To suffer.
sugerir,
To suggest. To suggest.
convocar,
To summon. To summon.
suprir,
To supply. To supply.
suportar,
To support. To support.
supor,
To suppose. To suppose.
aumentar,
To surge. To surge.
superar,
To surpass. To surpass.
cercar,
To surround. To surround.
inspecionar, pesquisar,
To survey. To survey.
sobreviver,
To survive. To survive.
engolir,
to swallow, to swallow,
balançar, fazer oscilar,
to sway, to sway,
jurar,
to swear, to swear,
suar,
to sweat, to sweat,
varrer,
to sweep, to sweep,
inchar,
to swell, to swell,
nadar,
to swim, to swim,
balançar,
to swing, to swing,
estudar arduamente,
to swoot, to swoot,
pegar,
to take, to take,
falar,
to talk, to talk,
tocar, bater de leve,
to tap, to tap,
provar o sabor,
to taste, to taste,
taxar,
to tax, to tax,
ensinar,
to teach, to teach,
rasgar,
to tear, to tear,
narrar,
to narrate, to narrate,
contar, avisar,
to tell, to tell,
instigar, tentar,
to tempt, to tempt,
tender,
to tend, to tend,
terminar,
to terminate, to terminate,
aterrorizar,
to terrify, to terrify,
testar,
to test, to test,
agradecer,
to thank, to thank,
pensar,
to think, to think,
prosperar,
to thrive, to thrive,
arremessar,
to throw, to throw,
empurrar,
to thrust, to thrust,
esmurrar,
to thump, to thump,
amarrar,
to tie, to tie,
cansar,
to tire, to tire,
lançar, jogar,
to toss, to toss,
tocar,
to touch, to touch,
treinar,
to train, to train,
pisotear,
to trample, to trample,
transferir,
to transfer, to transfer,
transformar,
to transform, to transform,
traduzir,
to translate, to translate,
prender,
to trap, to trap,
viajar,
to travel, to travel,
prender, emperrar,
to stuck, to stuck,
valorizar,
to treasure, to treasure,
tratar,
to treat, to treat,
rastrear,
to track, to track,
tremer, estremecer,
to tremble, to tremble,
triunfar,
to triumph, to triumph,
confiar,
to trust, to trust,
tentar,
to try, to try,
virar,
to turn, to turn,
digitar,
to type, to type,
tipificar,
to typify, to typify,
entender,
to understand, to understand,
desfazer,
to undo, to undo,
arrancar, extirpar,
to uproot, to uproot,
chatear,
to upset, to upset,
incitar,
to urge, to urge,
usar,
to use, to use,
proferir,
to utter, to utter,
dar valor,
to value, to value,
desaparecer,
to vanish, to vanish,
variar,
to vary, to vary,
verificar,
to verify, to verify,
irritar,
to vex, to vex,
rivalizar,
to vie, to vie,
visualizar,
to view, to view,
violar,
to violate, to violate,
vomitar,
to vomit, to vomit,
acordar,
to wake, to wake,
andar,
to walk, to walk,
vagar,
to wander, to wander,
querer,
to want, to want,
avisar,
to warn, to warn,
desperdiçar,
to waste, to waste,
assistir,
to watch, to watch,
regar, molhar,
to water, to water,
acenar,
to wave, to wave,
encerar,
to wax, to wax,
atacar de surpresa,
to waylay, to waylay,
vestir,
to wear, to wear,
tecer,
to wave, to wave,
casar,
to wed, to wed,
chorar,
to weep, to weep,
pesar,
to wait, to wait,
dar boas-vindas,
to welcome, to welcome,
ir lentamente,
to wend, to wend,
molhar,
to wet, to wet,
chicotear,
to whip, to whip,
sussurrar,
to whisper, to whisper,
ganhar,
to win, to win,
Ficar sem fôlego.
To wind. To wind.
Desejar.
To wish. To wish.
Sacar.
To withdraw. To withdraw.
Trabalhar.
To work. To work.
Preocupar.
To worry. To worry.
Adorar.
To worship. To worship.
Torcer. Espremer.
To ring. To ring.
Escrever.
To write. To write.
Bocejar.
To yawn. To yawn.
Gritar.
To yell. To yell.
Dar-se por vencido.
To yelled. To yelled.
Ampliar.
To zoom. To zoom.
Entusiasmar.
To zest. To zest.
Destruir. Explodir.
To zap. To zap.
Subscribe. Subscribe. Subscribe.